Hi everybody. Today I want to talk about protecting yourself from criminal attorneys. They prey on certain people, usually being the elderly, the dead, being minors, and they've preyed on me, and they will prey on anyone. In my first video, I talked about one of the many problems in probate court having to do with the chancellor denying his own order, my divorce decree, denying my contractual right to Will's life insurance money, which was put in place solely to offset expenses for the surviving parent to use while the children were under the age of 21. The same judge who was over my ex-husband, Will's, estate was over our divorce. This judge refuses to allow me the proceeds from Will's life insurance policy. He wants me to suffer financially and emotionally. I want to explain that I am a pro se forced litigant because I am a conflict of interest to the court. The government knows who I am, and no attorney or firm can even take me. I have considered searching for disbarred attorneys and even attorneys who are in jail to help me fight all the dragons as pro se. Why I am a conflict of interest to the court is because what I have uncovered, which involves the government via the attorneys and the judges stealing land from estates and conveying land into trust where they are shareholders. It has taken me 2.5 years to understand this. And I never would have understood it if Tom and the estate attorneys would have just abided by my divorce decree and allowed me the life insurance proceeds, but they chose not to do that. So it led me to uncover the reason for corruption and blackmail. I had 4 attorneys along the way, though. I want to tell you about that. They all acted, well, the first 2 acted right for about 2 weeks, and then they turned off the switch. The third one I had pretended to act right, but it just became obvious he was never intending on doing anything for me, and he was doing things to help Mr. Burwell, who was the estate attorney for my ex-husband, and Tom, his brother, my ex-husband's brother, and the executor. The 4th attorney I had was awful from the start, and I fired him after 5 weeks. But since I have no experience and nothing to compare attorney conduct to, as for how things are supposed to go, or what they should or should not be doing, I was unaware that I was being sabotaged for about 2.5 years, or almost 3. My attorneys were assisting, the ones I were paying, were assisting Mr. Burwell and Tom by delaying and stalling estate proceedings to give Burwell and Tom time to coordinate insurance fraud and to give insurance companies time to pay them these gargantuan fraud settlement checks. Meanwhile, they were charging me for hurting me, doing zero discovery, ignoring me, not answering to my questions, filing next to nothing, causing me extreme fret and anguish, confusion and fear, doing nothing but sending me invoices. This is fraud billing and was done to hurt me financially, and the goal is to destroy me. Like I said today, I will focus on my side of the family's financial crimes and involvement in these fraud trusts and fraud shares of LLCs. All of the torture and abuse I have suffered and still am suffering while fighting the Chancery Court in Madison County, Mississippi, I was abruptly thrown into yet another cruel and shocking fight against my own brother and sisters. My brother Alan is doing exactly what Todd Burwell and Will's estate executor, brother Tom Pace, did to Will and his father, my kid's grandfather, which is backdating and forging our mother and our grandmothers, who died in 2012, last will and testament, and even removing my grandmother's probate docket. And my brother, with the help of one of the chancellors, created an entirely new fraud docket on my grandmother. Okay, so I'm going to show you the kid's grandfather's fraud, last will and testament, and proof of will, and the fraud stamp, okay? I brought this matter before the court at a hearing on June 11th, 2015, only to get promptly smacked down. The court ruled that the stamp is just a smudge because of the quality of the copy machine. No mention of seeking the original document. Just automatically dismiss and deny me, no matter what I give as proof. Okay, let me show you Dr. Pace's proof of will, the stamp there. And then I will show you my own mother's notary stamp on her fraud, last will and testament. Okay, I need one of these edit, I put that there, one of these edit apps. But anyway, you'll see down here, that's an S, Sankin County, it says Sankin County. Okay, it's supposed to say Rankin County. It's supposed to be in Rankin County. So that S is supposed to be an R. Okay. Okay. And it's too hard to see, but the notary's middle initial is R, but the stamp says H. But it's covered up by my commission expires. Okay. Moving on to my mother's fraud, last will and testament. Mine, Alan, and Emily, and Abby's mother. Okay, you can see here the notary's name is Angela G. Bryant. It might be backwards on your screen, but you can still see it. Here it says Angela C. Bryant, but that's a G. So we have another fake stamp on my mother's fake last will and testament. Okay. My brother, Alan Woodard, and Todd Burwell are old friends. I thought they knew each other, but I didn't know they were this busy together. I did not realize they were working together with Mississippi Valley Title for the last 25 years. I know now that they have been in cahoots in the Pace estates. That's my ex-husband and his brother Jim and their dad Doc's what we called him. And in my mother's estate, creating fraud and embezzlement trust, delegating shares to themselves and beneficiaries that I don't know of, but they're in there. They're just beneficiaries, but they're not me. There are people who are members of this MAG Mississippi Holdings LLC. They name themselves as beneficiaries of various trusts. They cut rightful beneficiaries out. They enrich themselves, and they have robbed me and my children. So my mother, Sally Savory Woodard, she became unable to handle her affairs in probably 2021, but she had been getting by living alone and paying people to handle almost all the matters of her life. Well, in the summer of 2023, we decided she couldn't do that even anymore because she was just constantly doing stuff and like going to the hospital and staying there, and people she needed to come help her weren't coming, so we had to put her somewhere. Well, she was very upset about this. So, knowing what I know now, though, this is exactly when my brother Alan and sister Emily pounced. And my mother's sister Tweety, she also was involved in all this fraud and is involved now of robbing me. She pounced in too. Looking back, this is when they started acting differently. Tweety started calling me almost every single day, which I guess that was okay, but Emily, who I used to, do a whole lot with, and our boys grew up together, riding the school bus together every single day, Emily almost stopped communicating with me. I mean, not almost stopped, but it was different, and I noticed it. And Alan was doing the same thing. Even though I wasn't as close of a relationship with Alan, we still had a good relationship. And another thing is, he knew I trusted him. I had a trusting relationship with him, so he knew that. Okay? So let me show you this. This is the kicker here. My grandmother, who died in 2012, her name was Rosemary Stoner Savory. So my brother filed this fraud docket. The signatures in this thing for my mother, who was supposed to be the executrix, well, she was. So they made her in here too. along with some CPA from Belzona, Mississippi named Joey Cunningham, who wasn't supposed to be an executor, and he wasn't. They just put it in here. So let me show you this. Like, I know this is all backwards on your screen. That's why I need that edit out. But anyway, my brother's email. So he didn't have this email back when my grandmother died. The one in this docket he has on page 1, the cover page, the civil docket case page from Madison Chancery Court in Mississippi. So Alan's email address is wrong. It didn't exist back then, the one he has in here. All these right here, these little stickies, those are just some of the forgeries that he forged. He wrote mother's name on, Sally Savory Woodard's name, on all these pages for her, of course, because she was dead, or in a home. That's when they pounced and redid all this. She wasn't dead yet. She was staying in that assisted living home. And so one of the chancellors up there, the same chancery court that's been abusing me, is abusing me on the Pace side and abusing me on my side of the family, aided and abetted my brother into allowing him to probate this fraud docket. And on the very last page of my grandmother's fraud docket, my brother Alan is presenting this to the court, and he has under here his name, and he's the attorney for the estate of, and it's somebody else's name, Elizabeth Carr Powers, okay, whoever that is. He scratched that name out and wrote in our grandmother's name above it, Rosemary Savory. Okay, this Elizabeth Powers died, I looked this up, in September of 2015, which is, this lady died 3 years after our grandmother died, who died August the 23rd, 2012. So obviously, not only do I know just because it's obvious, but we have errors in here that make it impossible and just irrefutable proof here that this is all fraud, where Alan created this Sally Savory Woodard Family Trust, UA, that he is the trustee of, and he mentions it in our mother's last will and testament, which is, like I showed you, it's only her last will and testament right here. Let me tell you more about that, okay? Let me tell you, Alan gets away with all this fraud and embezzlement because he has help from the chancellors and the chancery clerks. So the chancellors, the judges, are aiding and abetting a criminal enterprise. And like I showed you, the proof right there in my grandmother's docket is overflowing proof, irrefutable. Even though I knew that they would laugh me off, I did it anyway, okay? I filed a complaint against the chancellor with the Judicial Commission. I just wanted to show them I caught them. So here's how they responded to my complaint. Okay, they said, their purpose is to determine the existence of misconduct and disability as defined by the Constitution and laws of the state of Mississippi. If such misconduct or disability is found, the Commission recommends disciplinary action to the Mississippi Supreme Court. In this case, the Commission found no basis for further action on this complaint. Therefore, the complaint was dismissed. Very truly yours. So that's just all a joke. Because I sent them the fraud docket and showed them all the obvious irrefutable evidence and facts, but they dismissed it anyway because I'm just a dismissed person. I'm dismissed. So anyway, my Aunt Tweety, mother's sister, her name is Mary. We call her Tweety. And Alan went to this criminal extreme and created this fake docket on our grandmother. So this plot was put in place to rob me of my 1/4 interest in 884 acres of farmland, which is valued at around $7,000 per acre. Okay, so my grandmother, Rosemary Stoner Savory, had 4 children. One was Mom, Sally. One was Tweety. And she had Charlie and Lacey. Rosemary owned 4 large properties of farmland. Alan and Tweety, like I said, decided to commit more fraud and to rob me and created 4 fake trusts via Rosemary's fake docket. He titled the 4 trusts in the names of Rosemary's four children. They all know this except for Mom because she's dead. Mom's trust is called the Sally Savory Woodard Family Trust, but I was never supposed to know anything about this. Alan and Emily, who were the co-executors of Mom's estate and her power of attorneys, are lying and saying that this trust does not even exist, even though it's clearly written in my grandmother's, the fraud docket they created, and in my mom's 3-page last will and testament. It talks about it. They're still lying that it exists. So I'm supposed to be an equal beneficiary to Mom's estate, but they're not allowing me to be. So at this point, I'm over the shock of it all. I want to share this with you all. So hopefully this part of my story will help other trusting people and family members realize that you can't trust anybody. You can't trust your family even. It's awful, but it's true, especially if you have an attorney that's a brother or sister. You can't trust them. Our mom's last will and testament sat out on her dresser in plain sight for at least 10 years. It was in a thick cream-colored envelope, and last will and testament was on that envelope. Her real will was that. It was thick. It was probably 25 pages. This fraud one is 3 pages. 3 pages. A person's last will and testament, especially an elderly person's, is both sensitive and private, but it needs to be protected. So no matter what, no matter how much you trust your brother and your sister, you need a copy of your parents' last will and testament and your grandparents if you can. That way you are protecting them, because they cannot be protected when you do not hold a copy of it, of the will. Although I glanced at Mom's will a couple of times, I never wanted her to think that I was just waiting for her to die, even though that's what she thought about the 4 of us in her final years. She was not right. I knew that asking Mom for a copy of her will would cause her to be upset with me. Another problem about all this was Mom and I both had 1,000% trust in Alan and our sister Emily and our other sister Abby. Because of this fact, my asking for a copy would have really upset Mom. I did not want to make her feel like I was waiting on my inheritance and just wanted her money and for her to die or something like that. I was not doing that, but being elderly, she definitely would think that, for sure. If your parents are not elderly, please have this conversation with them. If they get offended, show them this video or explain it. But you need to avoid probate court. The main reason is all the attorneys are on one team. They delight in your pain. They will rob you in a New York minute. They believe they are untouchable. So many of them, like Alan, they are white-collar criminals. Explain this to your parents. Especially if you have an attorney sibling, a brother or sister, get a copy of your parents' last will and testament now. I will end by saying that I've done nothing except uncover all of this, and I am being treated as the criminal. I am. I want to tell you all about this later, but Todd Burwell, who is again the estate attorney for my ex-husband, and Tom Pace, the executor for the estate, his brother, and the chancellor, have been so furious at me for finding out everything that they have done. They put me in jail for 5 days. I'm 50 years old. I've never been to jail, ever. And I will explain all of that in another episode. But they wanted me to suffer, and they got their wish. Alan came and got me out, only to turn right back around 4 days later and court commit me where I sat for 17 days. More punishment. All of this is true. All of this is because I found out that they robbed my children on the pay side, and they have robbed me, and I found out how they did it. They want me gone. They want me dead. They despise me. So in the next couple of days, hopefully, I will post a video about when I first knew something was wrong and how things unfolded. Thanks, everyone. I'm alone. I'm hurt. I'm devastated about all this. I'm posting my story because I need moral support, words of encouragement. And I hope to help people learn about what is happening and how they can avoid being taken advantage of before it's too late. Thanks, y'all.